I love my Apple gear, but over time I felt like my Apple Watch started to really sabotage my training. And that sounds overly dramatic, but hear me out. When I started taking my running a little more seriously, the Apple Watch really started to become more of a hindrance than a help. So I did an experiment with a Garmin, and which Garmin I picked we'll go through in a few minutes. But this watch really kind of changed my fitness experience. Okay, so here's a little bit of background. I've been using an Apple Watches for a very, very long time, and their ability to track fitness has improved over time. Um, and it's worked for me as a fitness tracker in the past. I use it to talk on the phone and close my rings, all the classic Apple Watch stuff. But a few months ago, back in August, I was kind of ramping up my training for a run that was coming up. And I decided to try a Garmin as an experiment, not because I felt like Apple was failing me or was a terrible product, but I just wanted to try something different. It was really getting frustrating with how I could access my data on the Apple, and I feel like that didn't really support my training if I can't see how I'm doing. This video really isn't about Apple bad, Garmin good. It's really about the question, is the Apple Watch holding back my training? For me, the Apple Watch stopped working as a serious tool, and Garmin surprised me in some pretty big ways. So if you're stuck between these two, maybe this conversation will help clear the way you think about these two watches. So let's start with why I even considered a Garmin. On paper, the Apple Watch does all the great things. It collects heart rate data, VO2 max data, pace, maps, all that stuff. All the buzzwords, all your typical fitness buzzwords. But the problem for me was getting answers out of that data. I'd finish a run, I'd open up the fitness app, and the graphs, I didn't like the graphs. They're these weird bar graphs instead of a nice line graph. I was always kind of having to, if I went into Apple Health, then I was trying to find the activities and see if there's any more insights in there. And it was just like, I was kind of always just fishing for deeper information from my watch, and that was getting frustrating. So given that, I started adding some third-party apps to my little fitness ecosystem. One was Athletic, and while it was good and presented my information in a good way, now I have a subscription. Instead of Apple just giving me detailed data like this app, I have to buy it. It was very difficult to create custom workouts. I mean, you could do it on the watch, you could punch in the workout and the custom steps that you wanted to do it, but on the watch it was extremely tedious. Now I will give Apple that in iOS 26 you can now do that on your phone, but nevertheless, when I was making my decisions, that wasn't out yet. I turned to Workoutdoors, which is a pretty robust fitness app as far as helping you create all sorts of workouts and design the face on your watch. But once again, third-party app delivering so much more value than what Apple can do. And so now I'm dealing with the Apple Watch, I'm dealing with the fitness app, the Apple Health app, Athletic, Workoutdoors. If I want to share this data with any other systems, I have to look and see who it is. Can I upload it straight to Strava? No, I have to cut through another third-party app. I mean, it is just a mess. Okay, then there's the cellular aspect. I had an Apple Watch Ultra, and I bought the cell service on it. So my goal with the cell service was to be able to leave my phone at home. I could get calls if need be. I could stream podcasts. I can listen to music. All these things sounded really enticing. But in reality, where I like to run and go, the service was sketchy at best. I like to listen to podcasts. Getting the podcast onto the watch, because I have to download it now, was a real hassle. The Apple Podcast app, in my opinion, is bad. It's been bad for years. I don't know why it's so non-intuitive. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. I used Overcast. That's a really good podcast app. But again, trying to upload podcasts from that app to the watch was sketchy. Sometimes it would work. Sometimes I'd get API fails. It should just work, right? But again, that's Apple forcing me to use third-party applications that, again, I have to pay for. So not only do I have to use all these extra apps, I'm also jumping through hoops for podcasts, even though I'm paying for a cell service. So at some point, I have to admit, I'm trying to bend a general purpose smartwatch into a training watch, and it's fighting me every step of the way. So that's when Garmin came into the picture. Garmin's whole identity is basically we're a training tool first and a smartwatch second. They may start to debate that with some of the features they've been adding, but, let's face it, training watch first. So a few months ago, back in August, I decided I'm going to experiment with a Garmin watch. Now, which one is the best one for me, for what I want to do? All right, so for me, this is an experiment. And if you look at the Garmin website, you know that they have a watch for almost every single possible activity you want to do. So I wanted to look at, what are the sort of things that I'm most interested in? I'm most interested in a watch that'll support my running. I don't really care about swimming features. I'm not a triathlete. I don't need the touch screen. In fact, I don't want a touch screen. I want it strictly buttons. I don't need the AMOLED, OLED, whatever, the colored screen. I just want the MIPS where it's just basic colors, easy to see in high sun. So as I make these choices, what was recommended to me starts getting whittled further and further down. And eventually I landed on a Garmin 255. Now, granted, this watch is a few years old. When I started looking at reviews, it was there from like 3-4 years ago. In fact, I found it on Amazon for $250. So this is perfect. So now I can try out the Garmin ecosystem and not really break the bank. Okay, so here's what surprised me about my Garmin. Data clarity is great. I mean, everybody knows about Garmin Connect. I actually started to get to engage with it with real data. And let me tell you, to me, it's great because it gives me everything I want in one app. I don't have to stack multiple apps on top of my data to see what I want to see. And it doesn't cost me anything extra. I know that Garmin Connect has some subscription features, but they're very few, and all the free stuff covers all my bases. Works on the phone. I can see my data on my watch. And better yet, I can boot up Garmin Connect on my desktop. Now, I like to look at data on a big screen because I'm getting old, and I like to see things on a big screen. I work in front of a big screen all the time, so I'm used to it. And it's just so easy. It's great to look at this data. It's the line graphs I wanted. Everything's laid out very clearly. There's so much detail you can dive into if you want. You can create reports on your data. Can't do that with Apple. They even have structured workouts. So if I have a running event coming up in a month and a half, I can boot up like the Garmin Coach, say what the event is, when it is, what my goals are for the race. Maybe I want to hit a certain pace. Then it formulates a workout training program for me that lasts a month and a half, all the way up to the day of the run. I don't have to even type in custom runs or custom schedules or custom anything. It just creates it and uploads it to the watch. So when I go to do a run on a day where I have a scheduled run, I just boot it up and boom, there's the workout. Overall, this watch really feels more like a training tool. It's clearly designed for people who are training with a purpose, not just closing rings. So the best way that I can sum it up is on Apple, I had to convince my watch to take my training seriously. For Garmin, it's the default. Now, I didn't throw my Apple Watch into the drawer and forget about it. I'm close, but I'm not there yet. I recently bought some AirPods, and with that came a 3-month free subscription to Fitness Plus. If you're familiar with Fitness Plus, it's kind of Apple's way of engaging you into a training regimen for things like yoga, HIIT workouts, all that kind of stuff. There are these videos that are created for you to boot up on your phone or your iPad and work out along with the trainer on the screen. It's pretty cool. I mean, they've been doing it for, 5 some odd years at this point, and there's just countless workouts that you can follow along with. Now, if you have an Apple Watch and you sync it up, then as you're doing the workout, data from the Apple Watch appears on the screen. You can see the rings moving. You can see your heart rate. You can see how many calories you burn. I mean, it's kind of gimmicky, let's face it. But it is a way for you to actually somewhat stay accountable with their Fitness Plus program. So right now, my training regimen kind of looks like this. When I want to work outdoors, like I want to go for a run or a walk or maybe a hike, I use my Garmin. While I'm using the Fitness Plus app, obviously I'll be using my Apple Watch. Now keep in mind this Garmin thing is an experiment, so if down the road I decide it's really not for me and I'm going to go back to my Apple Watch, I would like to maintain credit of all the work I've done on the Garmin on the Apple Watch. There are ways that you can sync your Garmin workouts to show up in Apple Health, but I have found that syncing process to be very sketchy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And again, here we are again with Apple and not making, it easy to work with fitness wise. But I found an app called RunGap. It's basically a data hub that allows you to connect workouts from various applications and then push them across to other applications. So if I do a HIIT workout on my Apple Watch, I can bump it up to the data hub and then push it to Garmin. And if I do a run on the Garmin, I can push that to the data hub and push that to Apple. At some point in time, if I do give up the Garmin, I'll still have all the runs, all the walks, all the hikes that I did on my Garmin watch credited to my fitness life on the Apple Watch. Okay, so where does that leave me? Like I said before, if I care about the quality of my workout, like if I'm going to go for a run, the Garmin is the clear winner. If I'm going to do something with Fitness Plus, the Apple Watch is the winner. When my Fitness Plus subscription expires, then I have to evaluate whether I want to keep it up. Because the fact of the matter is, where I live, the winters get really, really cold, and it's harder and harder to go outside. So I'm stuck inside. So maybe the Fitness Plus subscription will last for a couple months beyond the 3-month trial period. So if that's the case, then I'll keep using my watch. If that gets to be not the case, then maybe the Apple Watch will wind up in the drawer. Another perk, I guess, is that, now the Garmin is my main training watch. Everything just kind of fits together. I do the workout and see it on the phone. I can see it on the big screen. It's just completely seamless little space for training. I don't have to incorporate extra apps. I don't have to jump from one app to another to get in the information I want. Just go to one place and that's it. It's great. Okay, so if you're in the same spot as me and you're feeling frustrated with the way the Apple Watch works with your fitness regimen, you're not alone, because clearly I'm in that boat. So the Apple Watch, it can totally track workouts. It can totally do it. They have this training buddy now, which I've seen demos of. It looks kind of corny in my opinion, but as a holistic system, from workouts to training to data collection and data presentation, Garmin clearly is superior to Apple right now. If you're mostly into just kind of closing your rings and doing casual workouts, and maybe you're a huge Fitness Plus user, then really doesn't make sense to get a Garmin. Just stick with your Apple, you'll be fine. So in the end, what do you pick? I mean, you've probably seen countless Garmin versus Apple Watch videos, and the fact of the matter is every one of those videos, whichever one those people picked, it's a completely valid reason, because it fits what they want to get out of their fitness tech. They have training goals, and one watch works great for them, or maybe the other watch works great for them. You really have to figure out what your training goals are. For me, I was more focused on outdoor running, and the Apple Watch just didn't cut it for me. If you're someone who really is in the Fitness Plus world, then the Apple Watch is a perfect choice. But if you're just kind of on the fence because you're frustrated, then maybe what we talked about today may provide some value. Now, if you want to see another video on like how I have my screen set up or what a training program might look like, just drop it in the comments below and we'll see what I can come up with. On that note, if you think this video had some value, consider subscribing. It helps out my channel a lot, and it lets me make more videos like this and maybe someday retire. That's not happening. On that note, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.